Hi computer scientists, Mr. Stafford here, and today I wanted to show you Unit 3, Lesson 8, Answering Questions with Arrays. The first programming level says the theater manager is looking for an actor for the lead role of an upcoming musical. It is important that this person can sing all of the notes in the range of their solos. And in the theatermanager.java file, write the method max pitch. So theatermanager.java, we're looking at the max pitch method, which takes in an array of notes in the solo and returns the highest note. So we need to find the highest note in the array of music notes. Okay, so we need to find the maximum note. So what I like to do is I'm going to set a maximum note equal to just the first note that I see in the array. So I'm going to say int, name it max, is going to be equal to, and we're feeding in an integer array named music. So I'm going to say music at index 0. Now this may not be true. The maximum note may not be the very first note at all, but I have to start somewhere. So I'm just going to set the maximum note to be the very first note that I see. And then I'm going to write an if statement. Oh, I first need a loop. I want a loop to go through this entire array. So I'm going to go through the entire array, and I'm going to say for. And I'm going to do an int I equals 0. I is going to be less than music.length I plus plus. Okay, now it's time for my if statement. So I'm going to loop through the entire array, and I'm going to ask if music at index I is greater than my max note. And if it is, if music at index I is greater than my max note, then I'm going to set max equal to whatever that note is at index I. So music at index I, and what I run and return is that max note. Okay, so I've got this thing written. We need to test it out, and it says in mytheater.java, add the code segment shown below to test your method. So it says public final class theater manager, and it's stating what we should do in the max pitch method. So initialize a variable to store the highest note, create a loop to traverse the array, and then update the variable storing the highest note, and then return the highest note. So we have done that. And then back in the mytheater class, okay, we're in the main method. It's showing int song, double sales, tickets sold. So underneath tickets sold, what it wants you to do is copy and paste this code so that we can test our max pitch song. So let's run this, see if there's any errors. And it looks like the highest pitch is 89. Okay, and we're feeding in the song array. And you can kind of take a look at any of these to determine if like 89 is the maximum. Another way to kind of test this out is anywhere in the array you can set a new maximum. So if it says that it's 89, well, let's test out 100. Okay, so make note that 100 is there. I'm going to rerun this, and it is 100. You can also test it at some of the edge cases, like at the beginning of the array. So we'll test it at the beginning of the array. Go ahead and click run. It works at the beginning of the array, and we can also test it at the end of the array. So I'm going to go to the end of the array and see if it also works there. Run it, and it does. So I'm pretty confident that just spot checking my code here is that it does work. And test it one more time just to make sure. Okay, I removed the 100 and the actor must hit 89. So I'm going to click finish. The next level, the theater manager saw your max pitch method and was inspired to write a min pitch method to help determine the full range of the song. Unfortunately, the method runs into an error. So in the theater manager, .java, debug the min pitch algorithm so that it returns the lowest value in the array. So we got to find the minimum pitch, or min pitch, and then so here it is, right? They're still taking in an integer array of the music, and they've set an int lowest equals music at index 0, so that's very similar to what we did in the previous method for maximum pitch. They're just setting the very first musical note that they come across in the array to be the lowest, and then they have this for loop, int I equals 0, I is less than or equal to music.length, and then I++. So let's test this to see what kind of errors that we get. So I'm going to grab this code, and I'm actually going to put it underneath the code that we had from the last level and see what kind of error that we're getting. I'm going to run this. Okay. So it says the highest pitch the actor must hit is 89, and then it says exception. Your code hit an exception while it was running, and it's a runtime error. So it actually occurs while the error occurs while we're running this. Okay. Navigate through, see if anything stands out to you, and I'm seeing that something that stands out here. Array index out of bounds exception. Okay, array index out of bounds exception. So I'm going to flow back to Theater Manager, and I'm going to look at this min pitch, and I'm seeing that in my for loop, the condition is less than or equal to music.length. Well, music.length, it should just be less than music.length, because if it was less than or equal to, I get out of bounds. Say for instance, I've got 10 items in my array. The largest index in this 10 item array is index 9. So if it was less than or equal to music.length, I would be trying to access index 10, but 10 is out of bounds. 10 doesn't exist. The largest index I have is 9. So that's one error. So I'm going to go ahead and hit run and see what happens here. And it says the lowest pitch the actor must hit is 40. And that sounds reasonable to me. Again, you can test this. Just kind of skim the musical notes. 40 seems reasonable, but again, you can pick a random location and put 10 as the lowest and go ahead and hit run. Spot check this, and it says the lowest pitch the actor must hit is 10. And that sounds reasonable. You can go ahead and test more. Test at the beginning, test it at the end. But I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. Oh, I'm going to hit run. There we go. Because I changed it back to the original. I'm going to go ahead and hit finish. Okay. And then the theater manager needs your help finding some information about ticket sales for the upcoming concert. So let's take a look at total ticket sales. Okay. And the theater is getting ready for a concert. Tickets are being sold through the end of the week and are priced by zone. So zone 1 is $20, 2 is $15.50, 3 is $12.75, and 4 is $10. The theater manager would like to know the total profit from the ticket sales so far. So we'll take a look. We got a double array called sales, and we have an array of various ticket sales. $15.50, $10, $12.75. And it says in theatermanager.java, write the method total profit. So we'll go to theatermanager.java, take a look at total profit, and we are trying to find the sum of the values in the sales array and return the total profit from the ticket sales. Okay, so here's how we can handle this. What I want to do is return the sum of the total ticket sales. And we can follow these comments here. in total profit. So it says initialize a variable to store the profit. So I'm going to say double because it's a double array. So all the values in the sales array are doubles. And I'm going to say double profit equals 0 at this point. I'm just now creating it, so I'm just going to say that the profit is 0. It says create a loop to traverse the array. So I'm going to say for, and I want to do a enhanced for loop. Okay, so I'm going to say double S for sale, and I'm going to loop through the sales array. Okay, so open up this curly brace, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take profit, and I'm going to use a compound operator, plus equals S, because S is being assigned to every element that's in the sales array, and so I want to add up all of those sales with my profit. So profit plus equals S, and it says update the variable storing the profit, which I did just there, and then I want to return the profit. So instead of returning 0, I want to return profit. Okay, and then to test this array out, it gives us new code to test out under all the other arrays. So I'm going to leave the other code that I already have and test this total profit, and I'm going to run it, see if I have any errors, and it looks like my total profit is $702.75. And just taking a look at the sales array, that seems pretty reasonable. That seems pretty reasonable. I'll leave that. Okay, go ahead and click finish on this. We're going to do the average ticket price now. And so it has the same setup. Theater is priced by zone, $20, $15.50, $12.75, and $10. And the theater manager is interested in doing a little research about ticket prices. So in the theater manager.java, write the average price method to calculate the average price that people are willing to pay for a ticket. So I've got my total profit here, and I also have my average price here. So to calculate the average price that people are willing to pay for a ticket, your method should accept an array of ticket prices and return the average of those prices. So this is what I have here, my double array of sales, and we can kind of take a look at the code in here, or sorry, the comments in here to help us out with this method also. So it says initialize a variable to store the average. So the average is going to be a double, so I'm going to say double av. Right now it's going to be 0. Average equals 0. It says create a loop to traverse the array. So I'm going to make another enhanced for loop. So for double S for sales, and I'm going to roll through the sales array. And update the variable storing the average. And so this seems familiar to me. I've already run through my sales array, and to calculate the average, I'll need to add up all of the sales to find the total. But I already did that. So I'm going to change this a little bit. I've got a static method called total profit. So what I'm actually going to do is get rid of this for loop, and I'm going to say total profit. I'm going to call the total profit method, so average equals, instead of 0, total profit, and I'm going to send in the sales. So right now, that's the total number of sales. And the way that I can find the average is take the total and divide it by the number of sales that I have. Well, I can do that by finding the length of sales. So this is going to be sales dot length. So I have the total profit divided by the number of sales that I have, and I want to return average. Let's see if that's reasonable. So I'm going to copy the code that it asked me to test this out. And I'm going to paste it here and run it and see what happens. All right, and it says the average price of a ticket sold is $15.61. And looking at my prices, that seems reasonable within the range. Okay, and I can go ahead and click finish. And fast forward to our last programming level. And it says, oh no, there may have been a booking error that put the theater over capacity for the first month of concerts. The theater has a capacity of 250 seats. So in the theater manager.java file, write the method is within capacity, which takes in a list of tickets sold each night and checks that none are over capacity. So let's find that. And in the code, this method is actually called is in capacity, so we're going to leave that. Okay. And so let's read that one more time. In theatermanager.java, write the method is in capacity, which takes in a list of tickets sold each night and checks that none are over capacity. Okay, so we need to see if none are over capacity and our capacity is 250. So let's read the comments over here, and it says initialize a variable to store the status. Okay, so this status is going to be a Boolean. Okay, so it's going to be a Boolean, and I'm going to call it in capacity. And right now I'm going to set it equal to true. Okay, I'm just going to believe that we are in capacity until and check to see if one night I am over capacity. Because if I'm over capacity, I'm just going to set it to false and return that value. Okay. So initialize the variable to store it. Create a loop to traverse the array. Okay. So I'm going to say for double C for count. And I'm going to run through the ticket count. Open my curly braces. And I'm going to say if C is over 250, okay, so if the count is over 250 from ticket count, then what I want to do is incapacity is no longer true. Incapacity needs to be set equal to false. So I'm going to return incapacity. And the way that I could return true is if this is never a true statement, if C is never greater than 250, then I'm going to skip the inside of this if statement altogether, go through the entire double array called ticket count, and just return true, because incapacity will never be set to false if this if statement is never true. Okay, so let's test this. And I'm going to grab all of this. Make sure you grab the last curly brace from that else statement. Go back to my theater and test this. Boolean capacity not met. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. And what I'm getting is an error. So it says error incompatible types int cannot be converted to a double. So let's see what that's doing. So I am testing, okay, is incapacity tickets sold? So tickets sold is an int array. Okay, so tickets sold is an int array, which is going into the method is in capacity. So let's take a look one more time at is in capacity. Okay, so is in capacity is taking in a double array called ticket count. All right, well, if I'm feeding in an int array, it has to be consistent. So I'm going to call this an int array, ticket count, because I can't sell half of a ticket. Okay, so that needed to be an int. And my for loop also needs to be an int. Okay, so let's test this, see if we have any errors. and it says too many tickets have been sold. So a quick look at this array. If you can go ahead and find one that's over 250, and I see one second to last, there might be another one. Oh, there's another one, fourth one, 252, we're over capacity. And that's it for Unit 3, Lesson 8, answering questions with arrays.